Whoa, okay, so the De'Aaron Fox trade actually happened. Holy shit, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. We got to talk about this. These are basically my snap reactions. I haven't really given much thought to this. I just finished recording the Lakers video. I did not have any energy to talk about them because everyone else has pretty much already covered a lot of content about this Lakers trade. I wanted to make something artsy, but I don't have the time nor the energy nor the resources to do that right now. But I'm kind of excited to talk about this Kings trade because it's super fresh and it doesn't give me depression like Anthony Davis being traded for the entire Dallas Mavericks franchise does. So let's talk about this De'Aaron Fox trade and sort of assess the winners and losers. If you guys like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. We're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by around June. Every subscription, every like, it really counts a lot. And we got so much good feedback on my video a couple days ago, actually about a week ago at this point. If we can keep that up, that would be amazing. So let's just get into this one. So this trade is a 3-teamer between the Kings, the Spurs, and the Bulls. I'll put the full trade up on screen now. The Bulls are getting their own pick back in this year's draft. They're shipping out LaVine, and they are getting a bunch of basically contracts. You know, Kevin Huerter, Trey Jones, Zach Collins. Really, the main thing is they get to like sort of eliminate the protection they had on that pick to the Spurs this year. I don't know if it was definitely going to convey for the Spurs. Tankathon has magically already updated their status of the draft picks that were in this trade. So I guess we'll never know whether or not the Bulls pick would have conveyed to San Antonio or not this year. So getting that pick back for the Bulls is nice because now they have no pressure to make the playoffs. And now that they've shipped out LaVine, I honestly would anticipate that they will probably be moving Vucevic after this and then starting to like actually properly rebuild. So if this is going to push them in that direction, you know, I have no issues with it. Trey Jones is a nice young backup point guard. He's not fantastic, but I mean, if they intend on buying out Lonzo Ball, they're basically going to be switching places then. Obviously, the Spurs get De'Aaron Fox. Like, that is a massive W. He is one of the best point guards in the NBA. Very good facilitator. He runs the shit out of dribble handoffs. It'll kind of be interesting because him and Sabonis sort of forced each other into different roles. Wemby is such a unique and free-flowing player. I feel like De'Aaron Fox has sort of been confined to like a very strict role as a point guard the last few years. It will be interesting to see how that two-man game works. I mean, I think it's got enough talent to work. I don't necessarily think it's as perfect as everyone anticipates, especially because De'Aaron Fox is not an elite volume three-point shooter. He's not an elite defensive player. He's not a cone, but he's not, you know, the best defensive point guard in the world. It makes their point guard rotation really interesting, right? Because when they drafted Stephon Castle, I think we were sort of all on board with the idea that Stephon Castle was going to be their point guard after Chris Paul. Chris Paul was going to sort of show him the ropes for a year, and then Stephon Castle would take over. Stephon Castle has played a lot of 2 this year. He's played in a lot of 3-guard lineups as well. And now that they have De'Aaron Fox, like, what does this mean for Steph Castle's development? Like, does he play the 2? Does he play the 1 and move De'Aaron to the 2? Does he come off the bench? Chris Paul is almost definitely coming off the bench now. So that'll be kind of interesting to see. I mean, the Spurs did get a big talent injection from this. In terms of what it cost them, obviously they had to give that pick back to the Bulls to facilitate this. The Kings got Zach LaVine in that deal, which is honestly in many ways like a loss. Like, Zach LaVine's contract is quite bad, but it's improved this year just because he's been a lot better. He's been a lot more efficient. So if he can maintain this production that he's had this year in Sacramento, I really don't necessarily think the team is going to take like a drastic fall off a cliff, especially because Malik Monk has been facilitating like crazy for them. Sidy Cissoko is like a nice young, like scrappy, you know, end of the bench young player. We'll see if he becomes anything. And then the picks the Kings got, honestly, actually really not that great. Like, honestly, kind of underwhelming. If you're really high on Zach LaVine, then this trade looks a lot less bad for them. But 2025 Charlotte pick, that is not conveying this year, and I believe it's going to roll over probably either with a lighter protection every year or into second-round picks. So maybe that becomes a late lottery pick like next year or 2 years from now. Then they get 2027 San Antonio unprotected. That is going to be the 27th pick in the draft for sure. And then 2031... Minnesota unprotected. That is a big pick. That one really matters a lot. That's from the Rob Dillingham trade. I'm not really sure where the Wolves will be in 2031. No one knows. That's so far away. I mean, that is definitely a good asset to have. It's sort of like the Jazz having the 2031 Suns pick. I mean, it seems like those teams could both be on a downward trajectory considering just how their seasons have gone. So Sacramento getting that pick is honestly kind of sick. But like overall, not a great haul for Sacramento. Zach LaVine, I think he'll be a fine fit there. He could definitely run in similar half-court sets to what they're already running, basically spamming Sabonis pick and rolls. LaVine likes to come off screens for like tightly contested threes, and he sort of likes to create offense in a way that I think Sabonis could really, help him. I don't necessarily think he'll unlock anything new in his game, and this doesn't help the fact that the Kings have a pretty shitty defense. I mean, he's not a bad player by any means. He is definitely starting to make that contract look less bad. But like honestly, considering you traded I believe a multi-time all-star, or at least an all-star caliber point guard, and you basically got back 2 first-round picks. One of them is going to probably be bad for your franchise point guard. It's a little underwhelming. I'm not really sure what direction the Kings go in now because they didn't get a really good young player in this trade. I don't really think that they're going to be inclined to begin a total rebuild. I think that's going to sort of end up being a gradual process as well, especially because moving DeMar and Sabonis is going to be very precarious. Shit that you'd wait for the off season to do. So for the Kings, I mean, I guess I'll give this trade like a C-. Like, it did seem like it was kind of inevitable, especially if De'Aaron wasn't going to sign a contract extension. He would have had more and more leverage, and other teams would have had more and more leverage. So I guess the Kings getting ahead of the ball on this one was a good move, but I don't really love the return for them. I think they could have probably done a bit better than this. For the Spurs, I'll give it a B+. I mean, they went out and got the best point guard that was reasonably available for a guy who probably could have used an upgrade at that position. I think the only thing for me is I'm not entirely certain that the NBA math of this of athletic, fast, high assist point guard plus generational center is just going to equal a championship. Dame and Giannis hasn't really worked out in the way we expected. I think this duo has the chance to not work as well as we had hoped, although I think Wemby has so many skills that he'll sort of be able to stopgap that. And then for the Bulls, I'll give this a B. They got out of LaVine. They got one okay young player, I guess. I really do think Trey Jones is not nothing. And they got their own pick back in this draft, or they got to, I guess, write the protection on it. So I guess it could be worse. But, they did trade their best player, and they really didn't get that much back, so it's not that great. But honestly, considering LaVine's contract, considering his injury history, this is not that surprising. And honestly, I think just any move for the Bulls is a good move. They really need to start taking this thing down to the studs, so I'm sure Bulls fans are not upset about this at all. I mean, obviously Zach had a really long tenure there, and so maybe it would have been nice to see him sort of build something new, but that was probably never going to happen. But yeah, that's the De'Aaron Fox trade. Really crazy stuff. I mean, this one was kind of anticipated, fortunately. We could have probably seen this coming. Still very interesting nonetheless. I do think this makes San Antonio a lot more competitive in the West. This probably brings down Sacramento's value a lot in the West, so we'll have to see sort of how they manage their assets for the rest of the season. I would anticipate we really won't see them do much until the off season. Depending on the rest of the season goes, though, that this could shake out to be a pretty interesting off season of trades for Sacktown. But yeah, that's gonna do it for me. If you guys like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. We're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by around June. Every subscription, every like, it really counts a lot. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Cue that music.